It was a rainy afternoon on the edge of Chicago when Ethan Miller, a 27-year-old mechanic with grease-stained hands and a heart far richer than his wallet, pulled his worn-out jacket tighter and hurried toward his garage. He didn't own much, a few tools, an old radio, and a dream of one day owning a small repair shop that people could trust. He wasn't expecting anyone that day, but just as he rolled up the rusty shutters, a sleek black limousine came to a stop outside his shop, a vehicle so out of place it looked like a spaceship landed in a junkyard. Out stepped Mr. Jonathan Pierce, a billionaire industrialist known for his steel empire and cold demeanor. But Ethan barely noticed him, his eyes locked on the young woman in the back seat, Emily Pierce, his daughter. She was in a wheelchair, her face pale, her eyes filled with quiet sorrow. "My car broke down," the billionaire said gruffly. "Can you fix it? Money's not an issue." Ethan nodded, pushing his sleeves up. He didn't say much, he never did. But as he worked under the rain, Emily watched him closely. She saw the way he wiped his hands on his jeans, the care he gave every nut and bolt as if fixing the car meant fixing something deeper. When the engine roared back to life, Ethan noticed Emily trying to smile. Her legs trembled when she tried to move them, a brief, painful effort. He asked quietly, "Accident?" She nodded, looking away. "Car crash. I haven't walked in 2 years." He said something that made her pause, simple but sincere. "Maybe you will again. Machines break and heal. People can too." Over the next few days, the billionaire's car kept needing repairs, at least. That's what Emily claimed. Her father was confused, but she insisted on visiting Ethan's garage again and again. And slowly something changed. Ethan taught her small things, fixing screws, checking tire pressure, but mostly he just talked to her like she was normal. Not a broken heiress, not a billionaire's daughter, just Emily. He told her stories about his late mother, who'd lost her ability to walk but never her hope. "She said movement starts in the heart," Ethan told her one day. "You have to believe you can stand before you ever do." Then came the day that changed everything. Ethan was closing his shop when a delivery truck came screeching around the corner, its brakes failed, heading straight toward Emily's wheelchair. Without thinking, Ethan ran. He pushed her out of the way, taking the full hit himself. When he woke in the hospital, his ribs were broken, his leg bandaged. The billionaire stood beside him, the same man who hadn't said a kind word before. Tears glistened in his eyes. "You saved my daughter," he said, voice cracking. "I owe you everything." But Ethan just smiled weakly. "She doesn't need saving. She just needs to believe she can stand." Weeks passed. Ethan struggled to recover, but the bills piled up. One morning, he woke to find a letter slipped under his door. It read, "Dear Ethan, you told me to believe I could stand. Today I did. Doctors said it was impossible, but I took 3 steps. My father has opened a new rehabilitation center in your name, the Miller Foundation for Hope. Your garage is now fully paid for. It's yours forever. Some people fix engines, you fixed a life. Emily." Months later, the news broke everywhere. Billionaire's daughter walks again, thanks to a poor mechanic's kindness. When reporters asked Ethan how he felt, he just looked down and smiled. "I didn't heal her," he said softly. "I just reminded her she wasn't broken." And somewhere in that shiny new rehab center, Emily took her first unassisted steps, not toward luxury or fame, but toward the man who once told her that even broken things can run again if someone believes they can. Of course, here, the continuation, part 2 of the story, following directly from where we left off. This section deepens the emotional bond between Ethan and Emily, brings new challenges, and ends with a powerful, cinematic conclusion. Part 2, the day she danced again. 6 months later, Ethan's life looked different, and yet not much had changed. He still worked in his small garage, now cleaned up and painted fresh blue, thanks to the Miller Foundation. But every time the bell above the door rang, his heart jumped, hoping it might be her. Emily had gone overseas for advanced therapy. She sent letters, short, handwritten, full of warmth, but no visits. Ethan understood. She was finding her new self. One chilly morning, he was under a pickup truck when he heard the faint sound of high heels. Slow, deliberate steps. He slid out, blinking against the sunlight, and froze. Emily stood there radiant, no wheelchair, no crutches, just her. Her father's limousine was parked behind her, but this time she'd driven herself. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. "You're walking." Emily smiled, her eyes glistening. "Walking? Ethan, I'm running now." She laughed, and before he knew it, she wrapped her arms around him. It wasn't a movie moment. It was real messy, full of tears and grease and joy. They talked for hours about her recovery, about his plans. He told her he didn't use the foundation's money for himself. Instead, he opened Hope Garage, a place where young mechanics from poor families could learn skills for free. Emily looked around the busy shop, young apprentices working, laughter echoing. "You turned my pain into purpose," she whispered. He smiled softly. "You turned my dream into reality." As months passed, the friendship between them became something unspoken but deep. They weren't from the same world. She came from glass towers and black-tie dinners. He came from oil stains and second-hand tools. But when they were together, none of that mattered. One night the foundation hosted a charity gala, glittering lights, champagne, and the hum of a grand piano. Ethan stood awkwardly at the edge of the ballroom, feeling out of place in his rented suit. Then the music slowed. Emily took the stage. She stood before the crowd and said softly, "Tonight, I want to dedicate this dance to someone who believed in me when I didn't believe in myself."